Eli climbed carefully over the jagged rocks of the remote planet, his boots kicking up dust that sparkled faintly under the strange twin suns. The air was thin and smelled of minerals and ozone, and the wind carried the low hum of distant storms. He had come here to explore, to map uncharted territory, and to see what resources the planet might hold. Humans had sent explorers before, but this place was mostly empty, silent, and full of hidden dangers. As he crested a ridge, something unusual caught his eye. Half buried in the rocky terrain was a massive shape, unlike any natural formation. Its smooth, metallic surface glinted in the sunlight, reflecting colors Eli had never seen. The edges were jagged and torn, as if it crashed here years ago, abandoned and forgotten. He paused, heart racing. This was no ordinary wreck. It was an alien ship. Eli approached cautiously, scanning for movement. The ground around the ship was cracked and scorched, evidence of a violent landing or some sort of explosion. The hull was enormous, curving upward like a giant crescent, and strange symbols were etched into its surface. He ran his gloved hand over the markings. They were unfamiliar, but he could feel the faint hum of energy pulsing beneath the metal. The ship was alive in some way, even if it had been abandoned for decades. He circled the vessel, eyes wide with curiosity. Every part of it seemed designed with precision far beyond human engineering. Panels and ports jutted from the hull, some broken, others glowing faintly with alien energy. The wind whistled through gaps in the metal, creating eerie sounds like whispers. Eli shivered, part from cold, part from excitement. Humans had found alien technology before, but this was something extraordinary. As he moved closer to a large hatch, he noticed movement inside. At first, he thought it was a trick of the light, a shadow cast by the rocks. But then he saw it again, a ripple, something alive, moving in the darkness beyond the hatch. Eli's heart skipped. Could it be a creature? Or worse, some alien life form left behind to guard the ship? He crouched low, careful, trying to make sense of what he saw. The hatch was slightly open, just enough to slip through. Eli tested it gently, and it creaked under his hand. A faint green glow spilled out from inside, illuminating shapes he could not yet understand. He took a deep breath. Humans were explorers, yes, but curiosity often came with danger. He had to know what was inside. Stepping carefully through the hatch, Eli entered the ship. The air inside was stale but breathable, with a faint tang of electricity. Panels lined the walls, displaying strange, shifting symbols that made his head spin. Lights pulsed along the floor, casting long shadows. The ship seemed dormant, but the hum of energy beneath the metal told him it was not entirely dead. Something had kept it alive, even without a pilot. He moved deeper into the ship, flashlights scanning corridors. The walls were smooth and metallic, with grooves that glowed faintly. Eli noticed damage, burn marks, twisted metal, and shattered panels. It was clear the ship had endured something violent. He wondered what had happened here, who had flown this ship, and why it had been abandoned. The questions raced in his mind, but one thought kept growing stronger. He was not alone. A soft, low sound echoed through the corridor. Eli froze. It was almost like a groan or a cry of pain. His instinct screamed at him to turn back, but he couldn't. Human curiosity was stronger than fear. Step by step, he followed the sound deeper into the alien corridors. Each step made the hum of the ship stronger, and the light from his flashlight flickered against something in the shadows. Finally, he reached a large chamber at the heart of the ship. The source of the sound became clear. There, trapped in a strange energy field, was a creature unlike anything he had ever seen. Its scales glimmered in shades of blue and green, and its eyes were wide with pain and fear. It had wings folded awkwardly, and its tail thrashed against the glowing restraints. Eli's breath caught. A dragon, a real living dragon, was inside the alien ship. The dragon's gaze met his, intelligent and wary, but also desperate. It made a low, rumbling noise, almost like it was begging for help. Eli's mind raced. How had it ended up here? And more importantly, how could he help it without making the situation worse? The ship was clearly dangerous, filled with alien energy that could explode or collapse at any moment. One wrong move could kill both of them. Eli knelt carefully beside the energy field, studying the alien devices holding the dragon captive. He had repaired complex machinery before, but this was unlike anything he had ever touched. Yet, he could feel the pulse of energy, see the patterns in the glowing lines, and slowly, a plan began to form in his mind. Humans might not have dragons of their own, but humans had ingenuity, courage, and the ability to adapt. That was enough. He reached out cautiously, his fingers brushing a control panel. The dragon flinched but did not move aggressively. Eli whispered, "It's okay. I'm going to help you." He didn't know if it understood his words, but seemed to sense his intent. The energy field pulsed lightly as if responding to him, and Eli smiled slightly. Humans could survive and act in situations others might see as hopeless. He had found an abandoned alien ship, yes, but now he had a living, intelligent creature depending on him. And with that realization, Eli understood that his adventure was just beginning. Repairing the ship and saving the dragon would be a challenge unlike any he had faced before. But humans were clever, determined, and brave, and he was ready to prove it. Eli knelt beside the dragon, studying the energy restraints that held in place. The dragon's scales shimmered even in the dim light of the ship, reflecting shades of blue and green. Its wings twitched nervously, knocking against the walls of the chamber. The creature's eyes were wide, intelligent, and full of fear. Eli could feel its pain as if it were his own. He reached out slowly, careful not to touch the glowing barriers directly. A faint hum ran to the metal floor, beneath his boots, vibrating up his legs. One wrong movement, one misstep, and the energy could fry him, or worse, harm the dragon. Yet, he could not leave it here. Humans might be small and fragile compared to dragons, but humans could think, plan, and act even in the most dangerous situations. That was his advantage. "Don't worry," Eli whispered softly. "I'm going to help you." The dragon tilted its head, eyeing him cautiously. It did not move aggressively, but Eli could feel the tension in every muscle, the wariness of a creature trapped and in pain. He had to earn its trust. The dragon needed to understand that he was not a threat. Eli examined the restraints carefully. Strange alien symbols glowed along the surface of the energy beams. They pulsed rhythmically, almost like a heartbeat, and Eli realized the system was more than just a cage. It was a living piece of technology, responding to the dragon's movements. He traced the wires with his fingers, noting which ones carried energy and which seemed to control the force fields. Humans could understand patterns, and patterns could be manipulated. The dragon hissed softly, a low rumble that vibrated through the chamber. Eli froze. It was scared but not hostile. He nodded slowly, understanding. "I see you're hurt," he said quietly. "I'm going to fix this, but I need you to stay calm." The dragon blinked, and for a moment, its fear seemed to lessen. It trusted him, or at least sensed that he meant no harm. Eli moved carefully to a nearby control panel. The alien symbols were confusing, but he could see the logic behind the circuits and energy flows. One line controlled the restraints on the dragon's wings, another on its tail. He traced the energy paths and realized that with careful manipulation, he could weaken the restraints just enough to release the dragon without triggering an overload. Humans were not as strong as dragons, but humans could solve problems others could not. That was his greatest weapon. He began to work, pressing buttons, rerouting energy flows, and adjusting the alien circuits. Sparks flew occasionally, lighting the chamber in bursts of blue and green. The dragon flinched, but Eli kept speaking softly, reassuring it with calm words and gestures. Step by step, the restraint began to loosen. Eli's hands were steady, but his heart pounded. One mistake could fry the system, or worse, injure the dragon. Hours passed. Eli worked tirelessly, his mind sharp and focused. The dragon's breathing grew steadier as the restraints weakened. It no longer thrashed against the energy fields, but instead watched him with cautious hope. Eli smiled. Humans might be fragile, but patience, intelligence, and courage could overcome even the most advanced alien technology. Suddenly, a loud creak echoed through the ship. A section of the wall above the dragon's head shifted dangerously. Eli froze, his eyes scanning for danger. The ship was unstable, likely damaged during whatever crash had brought it here. He had to be fast now. Humans could act quickly, adapting to threats in ways others might not anticipate. He focused all his attention on the dragon. Almost there, he whispered. He adjusted the final energy conduit, carefully redirecting power away from the restraint beams. Sparks shot across the floor, but the beams holding the dragon began to fade. Its wings stretched tentatively, testing the space around them. Eli reached out and touched the dragon's snout gently. It flinched at first, then relaxed slightly under his calm presence. Trust was forming, slow but real. Just as he thought they were safe, a sudden shudder ran through the ship. The hull groaned, and panels above began to loosen. Eli realized the entire structure could collapse at any moment. He had to move fast. Using his knowledge of the alien systems, he activated an emergency power reroute, stabilizing the chamber long enough to guide the dragon toward a safer section. Humans could improvise in moments like these, and Eli was proving it. He gestured for the dragon to follow him. It hesitated but then obeyed, stepping cautiously as he led the way. Its wings brushed the walls, sending sparks from broken conduits. But Eli kept calm, using his hands to shield it from the worst of the energy bursts. Step by step, they moved, navigating the dangerous corridors with careful precision. Humans were clever, and cleverness was enough to face even the deadliest threats. Finally, they reached a larger chamber, one that seemed more stable. The dragon crouched, exhausted but free from the restraints. It looked at Eli with wide, intelligent eyes, and for the first time, he felt a real connection. This creature could have been dangerous, but it recognized the human courage and ingenuity that had saved it. Humans might not have claws or wings, but they had something just as powerful: intelligence, heart, and determination. Eli leaned against the wall, breathing heavily. The dragon lowered its head slowly, letting him touch its scales. It was real, alive, and it trusted him. For humans, that trust was hard-earned and precious. He smiled. Humans could survive in ways stronger beings might not predict. They could face danger, adapt, and succeed where others failed. Outside, the wind howled through Broken Hull, carrying the scent of alien storms. Inside, the dragon was safe for now, recovering from its ordeal. Eli knew the next challenge would be repairing the ship itself and getting them both to safety. But for the first time, he felt confident. Humans were small, yes, but courage, intelligence, and empathy could overcome even the greatest obstacles. The dragon gave a low, rumbling noise, almost like a sigh of relief. Eli laughed softly. "We'll get through this," he said. "I promise." Humans had the ability to face impossible situations, and this was just the beginning. And with that, Eli began planning the next steps, repairing the ship and preparing to take the dragon home. The adventure was far from over, but the first battle for trust and survival had been won. Eli looked around the chamber where the dragon had been trapped. The ship groaned occasionally, a deep metallic sound that made him jump. Panels flickered and sparks flew from broken conduits. He could feel the energy humming through the walls, wild and unstable. This was no ordinary repair job. The alien ship was massive, complex, and unlike anything humans had ever built. Yet, Eli knew humans had one advantage: ingenuity. They could solve problems that others could not, and he was determined to make the ship work again. He turned to the dragon, who now rested on its haunches, watching him cautiously. Its wings twitched nervously, and its eyes followed every movement. Eli smiled. "I'll get us out of here," he said softly. "You just have to trust me." The dragon lowered its head slightly, a small gesture of trust. Humans were clever, yes, but building trust with an intelligent creature could be just as important as fixing machines. Eli began by inspecting the main power core. Strange alien symbols glowed across the surface, pulsing in time with the hum of the ship. He traced wires and conduits with careful fingers, noting which circuits seemed damaged and which still carried power. Sparks leapt occasionally, but he adjusted them carefully. It was trial and error, slow and precise, but humans excel at observing patterns and learning quickly. He tried activating a panel, and the lights along the walls flickered, dimly illuminating the massive chamber. Energy flowed through the corridors, but it was weak and unstable. Eli frowned. The main systems were partially functional, but they would collapse without careful repair. He needed to understand the ship's logic. Humans were not aliens. They could not instantly know everything, but they could think, experiment, and adapt. That was enough. Using tools he had brought, Eli began rewiring critical systems. He connected conduits, bypassed damaged circuits, and rerouted energy to stabilize the ship. Sparks flew and panels hissed, but step by step, the hum of the ship grew stronger and more controlled. The Dragon watched, tilting its head as if it understood that something important was happening. Humans might be fragile, but they had intelligence and patience, two qualities that could overcome almost any challenge. Hours passed, and Eli's hand were covered in grime and sweat. He paused, breathing heavily, and wiped his forehead. The ship groaned again, but this time the sound was less threatening, almost like it recognized his efforts. He studied a control panel, noting symbols and patterns. Slowly, a sequence became clear. The ship's systems responded to energy pulses in a rhythm. If he could mimic that rhythm, he could bring the entire ship online. Humans were good at learning patterns, and Eli had spent enough time observing to understand the logic. He synchronized the energy flows, tapping the control panel in a steady rhythm. The ship responded. Lights glowed brighter, conduits stabilized, and the hum became steady and powerful. The Dragon flinched slightly at the surge of energy, but did not panic. Humans could coordinate actions carefully, even when danger seemed imminent. This was proof of human ingenuity in action. Next, Eli examined the navigation systems. Alien symbols danced across a holographic display, but he could see the logic beneath. Lines connected nodes in a network, showing energy flows, engines, and power distribution. He tapped a few sequences, tested responses, and made small adjustments. Slowly, the ship began to react to his input. Humans might not be naturally strong or fast, but their ability to observe, learn, and adapt could solve even the most alien problems. Suddenly, a panel sparked violently. Eli jumped back as a burst of energy shot into the air. The Dragon hissed, folding its wings tightly. Eli didn't panic. He ducked behind a console. Thinking quickly, humans excelled under pressure because they could improvise. He grabbed a spare conduit, rewired it to stabilize the surge, and within moments, the energy flow returned to normal. The ship shuddered but held steady. The Dragon relaxed slightly, watching him with growing trust. With the main system stabilized, Eli turned to the engines. Massive alien turbines were damaged, but he could reroute energy to auxiliary drives temporarily. He traced conduits, adjusted regulators, and activated the secondary systems. Sparks flew, but the ship vibrated with renewed life. Humans were clever. They could use partial solutions to achieve real results, and now the ship was beginning to respond. Finally, Eli reached the final panel, the central interface for the ship's systems. He hesitated, knowing that a wrong move could overload the engines or worse. The Dragon moved closer, as if offering silent encouragement. Eli smiled. Humans might be small, but they had courage and cleverness. He tapped the interface, following the patterns he had learned. Energy flowed to the ship in a perfect rhythm, systems aligning, lights pulsing steadily. The ship groaned and vibrated, then settled into a steady hum. Panels glowed evenly, conduits stabilized, and the engines responded to his input. Eli exhaled, a sense of triumph washing over him. The ship was repaired, not perfectly, but enough to function. Humans could face complex challenges, adapt to unknown technology, and succeed where others might fail. The Dragon stretched its wings slowly, testing the space around it. Eli approached carefully, extending a hand. The Dragon lowered its head, letting him touch it gently. Trust had been built, and humans had proven that intelligence, patience, and courage could save lives. Together, they had survived, and now they were ready for the next step. Eli glanced around the chamber, knowing the adventure was far from over. The ship was repaired, the Dragon was free from restraints, and the vast unknown of the stars awaited them. Humans were small, yes, but resourceful. They could take on challenges no other species could face, and their ingenuity had turned a hopeless situation into a new beginning. With a final glance at the control panels, Eli said softly, "We're ready." The Dragon gave a low, approving rumble. Together, they would take off into the stars, proving once again that human courage and intelligence had overcome even the most alien of challenges. Eli took a deep breath as he looked at the dragon. Its wings were now free, stretching slowly, and its scales gleamed under the soft glow of the repaired ship. For the first time since discovering the creature, it seemed calm, almost trusting. But the danger was not over. The alien ship had been damaged, and the storm outside was picking up again. Winds rattling the hull and making the whole structure groan. Eli knew that getting the dragon fully out of the ship would be the hardest part. He moved carefully toward the dragon, keeping his hands low to show he meant no harm. "We're almost out," he said gently. The dragon's eyes followed him, large and intelligent, full of curiosity and caution. It took a step back, wings twitching nervously, but did not flee. Humans had a way of connecting through calmness and determination, and the dragon seemed to sense that he wanted to help, not hurt it. Eli checked the corridors leading to the ship's exit. Panels flickered along the walls, some sparking, others humming steadily. The storm outside made the vibrations worse. The ship creaked as if it were alive, testing the strength of every joint and bolt. One wrong movement could collapse a section, and both he and the dragon could be trapped again, or worse. But humans had something dragons didn't expect: quick thinking and courage in impossible situations. He gestured to the dragon, motioning for it to follow him toward the nearest exit hatch. The dragon hesitated, testing the floor with its claws. Then, seeing Eli move calmly and confidently, it stepped forward. Sparks flew from damaged conduits as its tail brushed a panel, but Eli reacted immediately, adjusting a nearby energy flow to stabilize the area. Humans could improvise under pressure in ways even intelligent dragons could not predict. The corridor narrowed as they moved. Eli kept close to the dragon, shielding it with his body from falling debris and erratic energy sparks. The dragon's wings brushed the walls, knocking loose small panels and sending a shower of sparks into the air. Eli ducked, held his breath, and guided the dragon carefully, speaking softly to reassure it. Patience, courage, and intelligence were human tools, and he relied on them fully. Suddenly, a section of the ceiling groaned loudly. Dust and sparks fell toward them. Eli lunged, pushing the dragon to the side just in time. Its claws scraped the floor, and it let out a low, surprised growl. "Easy," Eli whispered. "We're almost there." Humans could act fast when danger appeared, and that quick reaction had saved them both. They reached the main engine chamber, where the ship's thrusters hummed with renewed power. The floor was slightly tilted, and loose panels made footing tricky. The dragon's wings stretched tentatively, testing the space. Eli guided it toward the central platform, where he had calculated a safe path. Humans were not naturally strong like dragons, but strategy, observation, and timing could overcome physical disadvantages. A sudden jolt ran through the ship. The repaired engines flickered as energy surged from the storm outside. Eli reacted instantly, tapping a control panel and rerouting power to stabilize the thrusters. Sparks shot across the room, but the dragon remained calm, sensing his confidence. Humans could solve complex problems in moments, even under life-threatening pressure, and that ability had saved them countless times before. Finally, they reached the exit hatch. Eli opened it slowly, and the wind and the storm outside rushed in. The dragon's nostrils flared, sensing fresh air. It hesitated at the edge, looking down at the rocky planet below. Eli gestured forward, encouraging it gently. "Come on," he said. "We're safe now." Humans could communicate through gestures and calm voices, and the dragon seemed to understand. With a deep breath, the dragon leapt. Its wings caught the wind, lifting it slightly before it landed safely on the rocky surface outside. Eli followed carefully, using the last stable corridor of the ship to descend. He jumped onto the ground beside the dragon, brushing off dust and debris. The creature looked at him, eyes bright and alert, and let out a low, rumbling sound. It was not a roar or threat. It was gratitude. Humans could earn trust and form bonds even in the most dangerous situations, and this was proof. Eli stepped back and examined the ship. It still groaned under the storm, and the hull had cracks from earlier damage. But the dragon was free, alive, and safe. That was the most important thing. Humans might not have the strength of dragons or the advanced technology of aliens, but they could solve problems, take risks, and make choices that save lives. His courage and ingenuity had made the impossible possible. The dragon stretched its wings fully, lifting into the stormy sky above the ship. It circled once, low enough to glance at Eli, and then rose higher, riding the gust of wind. Eli watched, heart pounding, feeling a mix of pride and relief. Humans had faced danger, adapted quickly, and succeeded. He had repaired the ship, navigated its hazards, and freed a creature far stronger than himself. That was the essence of human ingenuity and courage. Finally, Eli turned back to the ship. He had done what many thought impossible. He had repaired alien technology and rescued a living being that could have easily overpowered him. Humans were clever, brave, and adaptable. Even in an alien environment, facing unknown creatures and unstable machines, they could survive and succeed where others might fail. The dragon swooped low again, brushing its tail near Eli in a protective gesture. It seemed to recognize him not just as a helper, but as an ally. Eli smiled, brushing dust from his clothes. Humans could form bond with others, even those from different species, and that bond could make both stronger. He had earned the dragon's trust, and that trust would guide their next steps. Eli looked up at the stormy sky. The path ahead was uncertain. The planet was dangerous, and the ship was not fully stable. But humans had proven they could rise to any challenge. With courage, intelligence, and heart, nothing was truly impossible. And now, with the dragon safe by his side, Eli knew they could face whatever came next together. Eli stood on the rocky ground, watching the dragon spread its massive wings. The storm had calmed, leaving streaks of sunlight cutting through the clouds. The repaired alien ship hummed softly behind him, glowing faintly with energy. Everything was ready for takeoff. He took a deep breath. Humans might be small, but they could accomplish incredible things through intelligence, courage, and quick thinking. Today, he had proven that. The dragon looked down at Eli, its eyes bright and alert. It seemed to understand that he was no longer just a stranger, but a partner. Humans could form bonds that transcended species, and Eli felt the weight of that realization. The dragon's trust had been earned through patience, cleverness, and courage, the same qualities that had repaired the ship and freed it from its restraints. "Ready?" Eli asked softly, stepping toward the ship. The dragon lowered its head slightly, as if nodding. Together, they approached the hatch. Eli took the controls first, carefully checking the panels and conduits he had repaired. The ship responded perfectly, lights pulsing steadily, energy flowing smoothly through the engines. Humans had the ability to understand and adapt to alien technology, and this moment was proof of that skill. The dragon stepped inside, its claws tapping against the metal floor. It moved gracefully despite its size, adjusting easily to the ship's interior. Eli guided it to the central platform, where he had designed space for it to sit and balance during flight. He activated the engine slowly, feeling the hum of energy increase as the ship stabilized. Sparks flew occasionally, but they did not pose a threat. Humans could improvise, adapt, and act quickly when machines behaved unpredictably. Outside, the sky was clearing, and the alien world stretched far below them. Jagged mountains, glowing rivers, and strange vegetation passed in a blur as the ship prepared to lift off. The dragon shifted slightly, wings twitching with excitement. Eli smiled. Humans might not have wings or fire, but they could soar alongside dragons in ways no one would have thought possible. Courage, intelligence, and ingenuity had made them allies. The engines roared to life, and the ship lifted smoothly from the rocky terrain. Eli guided it carefully, keeping an eye on the dragon. The creature's wings spread fully, and for a moment, it hovered beside the ship as if testing its freedom. Then it settled onto the platform, watching him with bright, intelligent eyes. Humans and dragons, working together, could face dangers neither could handle alone. As they rose higher, the planet below shrank into a patchwork of colors and textures. Eli took a moment to marvel at the view. Humans had explored many worlds, but this one felt alive, full of mystery and danger. And yet, humans had the ability to survive, to adapt, and create bonds even with the most extraordinary creatures. That was their greatest strength. The dragon leaned toward Eli slightly, nudging him gently with its head. It was a silent gesture, but Eli understood. Humans had saved it, but now they were partners, allies in a world that was bigger and stranger than either could face alone. Trust, courage, and intelligence had created this new alliance. Humans might not be the strongest, but they were capable of greatness in ways that few others could imagine. Eli activated the ship's navigational systems. Alien symbols glowed across the display, but he could read the logic behind them. With careful adjustments, he guided the ship higher into the atmosphere. The wind rushed past, the planet's surface a blur below. The dragon shifted, wings adjusting instinctively, but it remained calm. Humans could think, plan, and guide their allies through danger. That combination of intelligence and bravery was unstoppable. Suddenly, a distant rumble echoed from the planet's surface. Storm clouds were gathering again, and the ship shook lightly. Eli kept his hand steady on the controls, adjusting the power flow to maintain stability. The dragon watched, alert and ready, its trust in him evident. Humans thrived under pressure, able to act where others might panic. Together, they would overcome this, just as they had overcome the dangers of the ship. The storm passed as quickly as it had arrived, leaving a clear sky filled with stars. Eli guided the ship toward the horizon, feeling a sense of triumph. The dragon had survived, the ship had been repaired, and humans had proven their ingenuity once again. Strength did not always come from size or power. It came from the mind, the heart, and the courage to act when needed most. The dragon gave a low, rumbling sound, almost like a laugh or a sigh of relief. Eli reached out, resting his hand on its shimmering scales. Humans could create bonds, earn trust, and form partnerships that no one else might expect. The dragon's presence was proof of that. Together, they would explore new worlds, face unknown dangers, and survive challenges that neither could handle alone. Eli looked out at the stars, feeling a new sense of purpose. Humans were small, yes, but they had the ability to rise, to think, and to act in ways that made the impossible possible. The dragon beside him was not just a companion. It was an ally, a partner in the great adventure that awaited beyond the stars. With the ship stabilized and the dragon ready, Eli whispered softly, "Let's see what's out there." The dragon tilted its head in agreement, and together they soared higher into the galaxy. Humans had repaired, rescued, and formed a bond that transcended species. That bond, and the courage that created it, would carry them forward into countless new adventures. The planet below faded from view as stars stretched in all directions. Eli felt a rush of hope and determination. Humans had faced danger, solved impossible problems, and earned trust in ways few could imagine. Their ingenuity and heart had saved a dragon and repaired an alien ship, and now they were ready for the endless possibilities of the universe. As the ship soared into the unknown, Eli glanced at his companion. The dragon's eyes sparkled with intelligence and curiosity. Together, humans and dragons would face the cosmos, proving that courage, cleverness, and trust could achieve wonders beyond imagination. The adventure was just beginning, and the bond they had formed would guide them through every challenge. Eli smiled, feeling the thrill of freedom, friendship, and possibility. Humans had turned a discovery into a rescue, a repair into survival, and fear into alliance. And now, with the stars ahead and the dragon beside him, he knew that anything was possible.